So I call upon the next speaker, Ms. Martin Cadet, going to present on a topic on create an emotional connection for lifelong customer loyalty on social media, the conventional content framework that converts. So about Ms. Martin Cadet is a social media content strategist and creator, adjunct professor and professional speaker. She helps her client convert viewers into paying clients. Paying clients never run out of things to say and or confident in connecting with their audience by mastering the skills of storytelling on their social platform. I warmly welcome Ms. Martin Cadet to present on the topic, please.
Thank you so much for the introduction. I'm very excited to be here connecting with you early morning here in New Jersey, United States. And so I'm passionate about content marketing. In fact, this has been one of the reasons why I've been able to go full time with my business as a result of being laid off from the corporate world. And so I'm excited to spend the next 25 minutes together and hopefully be able to answer some questions. So feel free, if you are live, to share your questions. Even if you're watching the replay, definitely participate. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So this slide is saying what we are going to accomplish today by the end of this presentation. We're going to be focusing on speaking about the human side of marketing, of digital marketing, that is. And so the goal is really to walk away to understand that it is about quality and not so much about quantity when it comes to your content marketing. And the takeaway is that word emotional, right? Creating content that create that emotion so that you can create lifelong customer loyalty. Now, sit tight. I have a framework for you. And so do take your notepad and pen, write down the notes, because guess what? Towards the end of this presentation, I have a very small little quiz to check your knowledge and make sure that you picked up all the important information. And so again, my name is Martin Cadet. I'm not going to spend too much time here because the introduction was very well put together, but all in all, I am a social media content strategist. I'm also a professional speaker. I'm an author. This presentation is actually a cliff note if you wanted to dive in more, available at Amazon. And I'm an adjunct professor teaching at 3 different colleges right now in New Jersey. And so you are here today because you are just like me, wanting to boost more sales and increase more retention. Put a 1 in the chat if you're here, if you agree with this following statement. It's so much easier to maintain loyal customers than finding new ones, right? If you agree with that, put a 1 in the chat and let me know, because I know for me, that was one of the challenges that I had to face early on when I showed up online. Good news is today we are going to address that. However, before we dive into my framework that you're going to take notes on and be quizzed on to make sure that you picked up all the information, I want to take us back as to why we're here in the first place. Why are we questioning the reason why our content is not converting? Chances are there's many reasons, and you're probably looking just like this woman on the slide today. And my goal is for you not to look like this at the end. And so one of the reasons why, and I have 3 of them, and there's plenty more, but the top reasons why I believe is because you and I are thinking way too much like a marketer when we're creating our content. Okay. And that's what we need to switch in order for us to create those human connections so that we can have more loyal fans, more loyal customers. We're going to remove ourselves from the perfection of being a marketer. The second out of the 3 reasons why I believe a lot of us are not converting with our content is because we're not taking the time to really dissect the journey that we're building with our content. Listen, content is the start. It's the handshake. It is not the end. And so many of us, we post and ghost and hope that the algorithm will do its magic, when in fact, posting content is actually the start of the journey. And we want to make sure that whatever it is that we tell people to do works, AKA the link in your bio on your Instagram make sure it's clear, make sure it works. Lastly, the reason why you may be here today interested in this session is because your content is not converting because your call to actions are too complicated. Or perhaps sometimes you post call to actions and sometimes you don't. And so those are the three top reasons why I believe most of us struggle with our content marketing not converting. Good news is we are going to talk about this. But first, I need you to do a mindset shift. It's important only because I know when I did that mindset shift, my business completely shifted. At first, you're looking at social media, digital marketing, showing up online to create content so that you can convert. That's your goal. And that's a good goal. And that's a goal we should have. However, in order for us to be more humanized and create that relationship and start those conversations, we need to switch that word to, I'm going to create content so that I can start conversations that will lead into conversion. If that makes sense to you in your life, put a 1 in the chat and let me know. And even if you're watching the replay, okay, this is very, very important, in my opinion, to have the right mindset. And so from this point on, we're looking at creating content to create conversations that would lead us to conversion. All right. And so here's my framework. I'm excited to walk you through my Terra method. I speak French and Creole. I'm from the Caribbean. And one of the things that I challenge myself a lot with online, especially on social media to create content, was my caption, because I do not have English as my first language. French is my mother language. And so I wanted to come up with a framework that was easy, simple, that anyone, my clients, myself, could follow, at least as a foundation, to create quality content over quantity. It's not about posting all day, every day. It's about that quality over quantity, in my opinion. And so we're going to dive in. I'm going to define to you what Terra stands for. We're going to look at every step of Terra. We're going to create a post together, and we're going to end with the quiz, and I'll be able to answer your questions if you have any. And so what does Terra stand for? Write it down. The T stands for trigger. E stands for emotions. So trigger emotions, trigger relatability, and trigger action. Every single time you create content, those are the triggers you want to question yourself and be able to answer, am I establishing those triggers with my content? Let's dive in a little bit more to put this whole thing into context, okay? Ready? Emotions. It's important that every piece of content, as many as you possibly can do across your digital positioning, triggers emotions, meaning focus the content so that it creates a feeling. Many of us do share those TikToks or those reels to our family members, our best friend, or even our coworkers because it created a feeling. It either entertained us or taught us something or made us aware of a situation. There is a reason why it was built the way it was built, so that you can interact and feel a certain type of way, especially if you are the target audience of that brand that share that content. Now, let's reverse. You as a business owner, are you triggering specific feelings to your target audience that you know that they have with every single content that you share is the question. Relatability, trigger relatability. Again, your target audience wants to know that you understand them. Don't be afraid to dive in and be vulnerable. Listen, a lot of the features that are available today on the digital space does engage us and challenge us as creators to put content out that's giving us the ability to have your audience, my audience, feel where they are based on what you're sharing. What am I talking about? Instagram stories, right? TikToks. Many of them are not so stock photos, right? This is the opportunity for you to be vulnerable. Don't be afraid to do so. People want to know that you understand them. Lastly, you want to trigger actions. Remember, after I talk about action, we're going to create a post together applying the Tara method, and then we'll go into the quiz, right? And make sure you write down your questions so that we can address them. Now, trigger action is the last thing you want to look into when you're creating content. Your audience, the question they have is, now what? What's in it for me? Do you really care about me? Do you really care about my struggles, right? And if you're not addressing that with your content, it's going to be very hard for you to create that emotional relationship. They're not going to take action. And so provide a clear call to action, something simple. Don't ask them to write an essay or a recap of their entire 2020 year of dealing with the pandemic. Keep it simple, and we'll get to talk about this more. But the takeaway here is have a clear call to action. Now, this is a great opportunity, remember, when we're done, to go back and take inventory of your social media. Because at the end of the day, it is not about what you sell, okay? What you sell is amazing, but it's not enough to be that unique differentiator that's going to make people stop and say, I want your shoes versus this other brand's shoes. It's the message behind what you're sharing about those shoes, about that company. What is it about it that you're creating those shoes for them to want to buy it and support that, right? That mission that you have. And so the key here is to focus and emphasize your marketing in places that you know your competitors are not doing, which includes being a little bit more humanized, if that makes sense. Now, for the next 5 minutes or so, we are going to create content so that we can build conversations. And like I said at the top of the conversation, to turn into conversions. And so again, if you're ready, I want to make sure you're up and up. It's early here in New Jersey. Put a 1 in the chat if you're live. Let us know that you are well tuned in to look into this Tara method and be able, for once and for all, not only take inventory of what you shared to date on your social and see where you can improve and repurpose. Here's a tip: repurpose, don't delete, repurpose, fix it. And also be able to create new with this framework. Thank you so much for engaging. I appreciate you. All right, let's dive in. So, in my opinion, again, I created Tara because I was frustrated just like you, figuring out, what do I post? Most of us, we want to be great marketers for our businesses, right? And that's a great goal, but we get stuck. And so I want to simplify the process by sharing with you, regardless of where you are on social, whether you are on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, other than social audios, meaning when you're on Clubhouse or OWL, this method here will apply. I believe that every platform has really 4 parts to it. And understanding that in your mindset when you're creating that content, I believe will help you create more quality pieces of videos or pieces of images and so on and so forth. So what are the 4 parts of a piece of content on any platform? It's either an image, right, that you're going to share, or you're going to share a video, whether it's live or pre-recorded. That's part 1. The second part is the headline. So many of us, I was a victim of this too, forget about the headline. And we'll get to talk about what that means. And the last 2 parts of a post is the caption and the call to action. Every single platform gives you the space to create that way. Okay? So either on LinkedIn, what are you doing? You're posting an image or a video. When you're on Facebook, what are you doing? You're posting either an image or a video. Am I right? You have a headline. You have a caption on both, don't you? And you want to put a call to action. That's it. Okay? Of course, you could go above and beyond, but remember, I'm here to give you the simple framework that's going to leave you to really clearly understand how to effortlessly create content that's going to convert and create lifelong customers. So let's go ahead and create a content together. I'm going to give you some examples. I'm going to give you some tips. Not everything that I share is going to be on the slide, so pay attention. Let's dive in with the first part of your post using the Tara method. Your image or your video. You need to ask yourself again, am I triggering emotions? What do I want my audience to feel? Because the reality is, if they're not feeling a certain type of way, like I said before, they are not going to save that post. They are not going to share that post, and they are not going to comment on that post. And the last time I checked, when I went to the bank, the teller at my bank told me they cannot cash out my likes. So at the end of the day, the quality of your content comes from the engagement of it all. Am I right? Before I move on, I have to share with you. I was invited to be a speaker at Facebook, not because I have 100,000 followers, which, by the way, I do not have, but because Facebook reached out and said, we love the type of content you're sharing with our platform, and we need you to help more businesses to know how to create quality content. So at the end of the day, it's about the quality, not the quantity. What do you want your audience to feel when they see that image or that video? Can your audience see themselves? Would you share that video yourself if you were on the other side? Ask yourself that question. If the answer is no, then it's not worth posting. You need to edit it. If it has no context to it, why bother? Just to fill up and say, yes, checkbox, I posted on Instagram, not enough. Next is the headline. What am I talking about when I say headline? If you've been in this space for a while, back in the days on Instagram, when you shared content and you had your captions, when someone would scroll, they would see the entire caption. What's happening today? Most people read your headline. And if they don't read your headline, they're not going to read the entire post. I'm talking about this portion here. You know how you have to see more? Every single platform crunch that. And that section there is your headline. Make it attention grabbing. It is true on many platforms, LinkedIn, Facebook, and so on, where your audience has to click see more. And therefore, it is important for you to really strategize your content, especially that caption portion, so that it grabs the attention right there and then. Now, on this slide here, I want to stop for a second before we go into the caption and the call to action to end. For images and videos, make sure your images are clear. I am seeing way too many of us still not leveraging, okay, editing apps, still not leveraging the information that's out there online. There's no lack of information. Make that square fit Instagram, please. Also, select a cover for your video so it's not a black square. Design it. Take the time. There's a great resource that I love to use called Vid.io, VEED.io. By no means am I affiliate to them. I really enjoy editing my videos using it. And there's plenty of other resources similar to it, but I personally like that platform that gives you the opportunity to create captions and subtitles and headings and progress bar to enable that engagement and that invitation for your audience to really tune in to what you're sharing. But at the end of the day, take some time to make the quality of your content attention grabbing, okay? And for the image, I'll end with that lesson copy on top of your images. Sometimes I'm looking at Instagram posts and I'm like, this is way too small. I can't even read it. Understand the platform and how it's being consumed. All right, now we're going to talk about the last part of your content, the caption and the call to action. I like to talk about it together. Why? Well, because if you're familiar with the sales industry, you will be familiar with this sell objection kind of framework, which is what I'm going to bring up now in your caption. Remember, I told you I speak French. English is a language that I learned. And one thing that we have to understand, in order for us to create lifelong customers with our content on social media, we have to spend energy and time in our caption. I am not a professional copywriter, but I know that you also is not a professional copywriter, but yet you are able to share your message in a human way. But how do you do that? That was my question to me. And so I'm hoping that this sales objection framework that I was able to be exposed to and been implementing in my content marketing will also help you. And so remember with the caption, I said, start with a headline. After that headline, you're going to start with, I feel you, audience. I know how you feel about this topic. Or if you're a company, you say, we feel how you are feeling right now, the frustration you're feeling about this problem. We also felt it too. And again, if you're solo, you say, I also felt it too. I was frustrated. I was tired. I was sleeping late at night. You see how simple and organic it is for you to speak to your audience through caption with this framework? And then you end with, but guess what I found? And you give your solution. And you say, this is why I need you to click the link in bio so you can join this wonderful opportunity. Am I speaking to anyone here? Put a 1 in the chat and let me know if this is mind-blowing, because it's super simple. I'm not complicating this here for you. This is how you could frame your caption so that you could trigger that conversation, okay? And if you have more questions about it, we could chat about it afterwards, but I want to make sure that I wrap up on time. And so here's a quick recap, right? Make sure your image or video is clear. Add those captions to your videos. Listen, now we have the opportunity to have natively, especially on Instagram, create the caption for us. Many people don't have their sound on when they're on social media. Leverage those features. They're not given to us because they're just cute. They're given to us because we can use them to build our brand awareness on social with our content and connect with our audience quicker, right? Put a headline on your video so that people know, whoop, stop the scroll. I need to watch this. This is for me, okay? Don't forget about your headline. Remember, I mentioned most platforms now, after a certain amount of text, you got to click see more to be able to see the content. And don't be shy in regards to writing your caption. I used to be the same, where I was like, who has time to write an entire essay on Instagram? The reality is, when you want to build relationships, you want to have conversations, period. And so the, hey, new offer, hashtag, emoji, click the link in bio kind of caption is not enough. You're not connecting when you do that. Dive in, explain to your audience why it's important. Again, that framework I shared about earlier. I feel you. I felt it too. Emoji, call to action. That's why, right? Hopefully you're following me. And at the end of the post, you have to tell them what to do. I cannot stress this enough. What do I have to do next? And make sure whatever you tell them to do works. I've had people where they say link in bio, I click on it, and it's a 404 page. That journey is broken. Your audience is frustrated. They lose trust, and they're like, this business is not serious. They're telling me to do this, and it's not even working. So take the time to understand that your content is the start. It's not the end. I love this quote from Jeff Bezos. We are in the midst of wrapping up this presentation. So if you have any questions, definitely put them in the chat if we have time to address them. Your brand is what people say about you when you leave the room. I'm going to leave this Zoom very shortly, and you're going to talk about me, hopefully, right? In a good way, in whatever way. But at the end of the day, I showed up and I created this content. Same thing goes for you. You want to be able to create a type of content that's going to enable your audience to talk about you in a positive way, obviously, is what you would want. Therefore, the fact that you're just going to post to convert has to change. You want to post so that you can converse and convert. Now, we don't want to forget other points to help you with your content to create that emotional connection. If you're a local business, if you are not a local business, or whatnot. Do not forget about hashtags are not dead. I don't know who came up with this whole thing that hashtags are dead. They're not. I've been booked to speak on podcasts and speaking on events and whatnot as a result of hashtags. Geotags are powerful to connect with your local audience. Do it. Collaborate. If you want to collaborate with me, you can absolutely do that because people want to see what you are impacting, your message, who you are impacting with. You get that? And so make sure you write this down. Now, we're going to wrap up and I want to test your knowledge. So hopefully you have picked up all of it that I wanted you to make sure you paid attention to. And so I have 3 questions, I believe, for this test. And let's see if you caught everything. So I'm going to count 5 seconds. If you know the answer, write it down. If you want to put it in the chat right now, go right ahead and put it. I would love to see your answer. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Time's up. Okay, so what is the answer? Conversation before conversion. Did you get that? Give yourself a pat in the back. You got it. Very, very good. Second question. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Time's up. What is the answer? Let's see if you got it. That's right. Quality over quantity is what I want you to take away. Now, this is the hard one. What does all of this stand for? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Trigger method. We want to trigger emotions. We want to trigger relatability, and we want to trigger action. You got it. Very good. I'm so proud of you. Now, this is my information. Feel free to take a screenshot of the slide should you want to. Visualize and Create Show is my podcast. I'd love for you to tune in if you'd like to. You can certainly email me directly. This is my email, my first name, last name.com. My website is here. And if you want to take a screenshot of this or take a selfie of this slide, mention me in your stories on Instagram. I will mention you back. And so this is the end of my portion. I'm going to stop sharing, say hello to you again, and find out if we have any questions or if you need me to dive in before I say goodbye.
Hi, Ms. Martin, and thanks for the wonderful presentation. And we have some questions received from social media. And first question is, what are the things to be considered in content to create a brand versus non-brand site?
So if you, the way I'm hearing the question is, how do you create a brand, right? Using your social media. The one thing that I would say, exactly. Okay, so I would say stay consistent. It's going to be super boring for you to keep using the same picture, the same, color palette or the same words or message. But at the end of the day, to create a strong brand with your content, it is very, very key that you have a brand kit for yourself. So many people get stuck in building their brands because they're kind of all over the place. Create yourself a foundation. For me, I invite you to go on my Instagram. You're going to notice consistency with my color branding. When you see Nike as a brand, when you see Coca-Cola as a brand, any brand, Target as a brand, there is a consistency in their vision kind of content, their visuals, visuals. And there's that. So that's what I would say for you. I mean, there's many other things, but the number one, work on your visuals so that they are consistent, so that your audience knows that when they see you, when they see that color, when they see that logo or whatever it is that they have, every time they know it's you and they know what you stand for. If I answered the question, hopefully I did.
I have another question from the social media live. Tips or growth hacks on the types of content that should be created?
I would say the Terra method, start those conversations. And please do not forget to respond to your followers. If they are saying, oh my gosh, this was great, do reply, and reply genuinely, not just reply emoji, thanks, dive in. Thank you so much for taking the time to look at this content. I appreciate your engagement. Follow up with a DM and say, thank you again for engaging in that piece of content. What is that part of that content that resonated the most for you? A second tip, and I'll end with this, on social media, to build engagement, to build those conversations. Many of us, we do polls on stories on Instagram. People take the poll, and you as a creator, you sit back and you're like, ooh, look at all those eyeballs. It's not over. Follow up with everybody that took the poll. Send them a DM and say, why did you select no? Why did you select red? It's interesting that you like this dress and not this one. Can you tell me why? Start those conversations. Content is the start. It's not the end. That's how you're going to build engagement.
Question: how to create the best content that attracts our audience attention?
I'm going to go back to the Tara method. Make sure that you leverage all the features. If you're posting a video, put a headline so that it grabs that attention. Make sure your headline for your caption starts with a headline so that they could click see more. Make sure your images are cropped and edited in a way that it is attractive. And I'm not just seeing a face and you're talking about oranges in your caption. That's how you grab attention. That's how people are going to stop and say, this is for me, not for you. That's for me. And I'm sharing this with my mama, because that resonates for me a lot.
Thank you so much, Ms. Martin. And you have one question from Ms. Kenny. Wow, it's interesting. I'm learning a lot. Don't forget to drop your contacts in the chat.
Absolutely. Well, I did share my slide, and so I'm going to share with you. Write this down. Go on my website, Martine, which is my name, martinecadet.com. Follow me on Instagram. Send me a DM. I answer all my messages. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. It's a wonderful presentation done by you in with GDMS. Thank you so much.
Take care. Have a wonderful day.
Okay, the polls are raised, and participants, please raise a poll for Ms. Martin to close the session of her.